Finally. Now that's what I'm talking about. Donald Trump said that was his best debate ever. And it was. If Trump is a black woman named Kamala. Take that music down. Take that music down because I have exclusive audio. This is exclusive audio of Donald Trump and his advisors right after the debate, caught on an open mic. Listen to this.
That's it. What about everything we talked about?
Well, I get a little nervous.
A little nervous.
I'm getting better.
Look, I'm sorry. I just got done saying it. Last episode to people on the left. You got to take your medicine. So now people on the right, you got to take your medicine. That was bad. That was a bad debate for my man Donald Trump. It was not good at all. It is high past time for Donald Trump to admit to the American people whether or not he is under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Now, I know he claims he doesn't drink or take drugs, but what else explains that? If he's not crazy, which I'll accept that. If he just came out and said, listen, I'm a little crazy, I'd accept that. I go, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I see that. If he's not under the influence of drugs or alcohol and he's not crazy, what else explains that behavior? Let me slow down. Let me start from the beginning. And this is just raw thoughts rolling right now. I wanted to do this. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. And people on the left, I'm giving you your reward. I'm giving you your reward for a good night. Because when I watched the debate, which I did watch the entire debate because it was not a waste of time. Remember I told you the DNC, the RNC, didn't watch it. Waste of time to me. I'm not going to watch a pep rally. But the debate, that's not a waste of time. I got to watch that. That's very important. So I watched the entire debate, and then I flipped around through all the different channels for the post-debate coverage, and then I listened this morning to some more talk about the debate. And so I probably heard major portions of this debate 3 times. And bad news for people on the right, it didn't change. And the third time, the fourth time I heard stuff, it was still just as bad for Donald Trump. But let me start. Let me start from the because the media, I swear, the media is about as useless as a screen door on the International Space Station. They are useless. They're complimenting Kamala Harris, and they don't even know what they're complimenting her for half the time. Let me give the compliment. And I wanted to do this and get it out there because I don't want nobody to steal my thunder. Because sooner or later, they're going to figure it out, or the campaign will say, well, no, this is why she did this. Kamala Harris did not go over to Donald Trump to shake his hand. They're all flipping out on the media. Oh, look at that. She went over. She shook his hand. She initiated. She sought him out. That was a power move by her to go over and shake his hand. She didn't go over there to shake his hand. She went over there to say her name to him. That's why she went over there. She went to shake the hand, but the real purpose was she wanted to say, hi, I'm Kamala Harris. And thereby saying, you seem to be having a problem knowing who I am and remembering my name, but you're going to learn today. That was the purpose for the handshake, to say the name. They completely have seemed to have missed that. The other thing they missed, credit where credit is due. I'm consistent here and I'm fair here. And I have been extremely hard on the advisors when they were Biden's advisors and when they became Kamala Harris's advisors. I've been extremely hard on them and calling them stupid. But credit where credit is due. I don't know if it was her. I don't know if it was her advisors. I don't know if this was a strategy that they had in place or it's a new strategy. What I'm talking about is everybody knows the trigger Donald Trump. That's no mystery. Everybody knows if you say certain things to him, you can trigger him. But what they figured out, what was clever, not smart, I'm always talking about that. Clever, not smart. What they figured was it's not just triggering him, it's when you trigger him. It's when you trigger him. She clearly came in there with a strategy. They had figured something out about Donald Trump. And I watched some of the pre-debate stuff, just a couple minutes, and they talked about her studying all his old debates. And so they figured something out. He's going to respond to whatever the last thing you say is. I think people kind of knew that too about him, but they also said, if you want to trigger him and you know he responds to the last thing you say, do it when you know he has a good rebuttal. Do it on a question where you know you might get stung with that particular question. For example, immigration. That's a tough one for Kamala Harris. Look, the Biden-Harris administration has not been good on immigration. So if she gets hit with a question on immigration, like, Vice President Harris, you have said in the past you would be for giving health care and public education to people who come across the border illegally. Do you stand by that? Her answer would be what she gave, the answer she's given. My values haven't changed on anything. And we had this bill. We negotiated the strongest, most comprehensive border bill, and Donald Trump killed the bill. And the thing of it is, I've heard Donald Trump can only drive a golf ball maybe 100 yards, 120 on a good day. That's what he's going to respond to. If he has a minute for a response, he's going to spend 57 seconds responding to how far he can hit a golf ball. That is what they figured out. That is what she used very, very effectively. Like I said, credit where credit is due. I criticize when it's appropriate, in my opinion. I'll praise when it's appropriate. And I think that somebody figured that out. Like I said, I don't know if they figured it out back in the Biden debate and he just wasn't effective at doing it. But she was very effective. Man, she hit every single point on him that the left has been yearning for someone to hit. I don't think she missed a single point. I don't think she missed a single criticism of him. I thought she was going to ask him if he needed a hug at one point when she said, I think he's having trouble processing that he lost the last election. I thought she was going to go over and say, come here, man, and give him a hug and then send him back over and then keep on ripping into him. Holy smokes. I could just hear all the people out there on the left. Kamala. Kamala. I mean, she didn't leave anything. She didn't leave anything out. She hit every single point. And I could very easily sit here and say, were the moderators a little biased? Maybe a little. Did she not give detail on her plans? Nobody does in a debate. You get 2 minutes. Nobody gives detail. I'm more concerned about her giving detail in interviews and down the line. They don't really do it in a debate. Were her expressions or mannerisms at times annoying? It all depends. All depends on how you feel about that. Again, I could see people out there on the left loving it. Loving her with the little hand under the chin and some of the laughing and some of the smiling, where other people would be annoyed by it. But I could sit here and I could go back and forth and go, this was strong and this was weak and this was good and this was bad. I got to give it. I got to take my medicine. I got to take my medicine. Not that, I was against Kamala Harris in the debate. I asked a question, or I shouldn't say I asked a question. I said in the last episode, she's not going to knock Donald Trump out. So that's the question. Did she knock Donald Trump out? Did Kamala Harris knock Donald Trump out? No, she didn't knock Donald Trump out. Joe Biden got knocked out. That's a knockout. He's not in the race anymore. That's a knockout. Donald Trump is still in the race. Oh, she staggered Donald Trump. She wobbled Donald Trump. He needed a standing 8 count several times in that debate. He had to go to the corner and get some smelling salts. I mean, she did everything but knock him out. But no, he's not knocked out because this is still a race. It's still a close race. I believe she picked up some voters. I believe he lost some voters. The key is who and where. That's what matters. Who and where. Did she pick up voters that she didn't have or she wasn't going to get and now she is? Did he lose people who he really needed? In certain swing states, I don't know. We don't know that yet. But there's no question, she picked up voters and he lost voters. No doubt about it. But not a knockout, because as clever, I want to give them credit for being clever. The advisors, they shoot themselves in the foot as quickly as they can. Right away, right after the debate ends, that was fun. Let's do that again. They talk about they want a second debate. The side that loses does that. Not the side that wins. Not the side that wins. The side that loses starts right away saying, we want another debate. We want another debate. And the side that wins, Kamala's side, they sit back and go, we'll let you know. We'll let you know. We'll check our schedule and we'll let you know. We'll get back to you. And you have the Trump team begging for another debate. Guess what? Trump understood that, because Trump went right on Hannity after the debate, and Hannity said, they want another debate. Would you be up for that? And Trump said, they only want another debate because they lost. That's why they want another debate, because they lost. And so I don't know how the advisors screwed that one up. You never right away say, let's have a second debate after you win. You say that after you lost. But okay. What else? And I'm sorry I'm rambling. As I said, I'm just giving you some of my thoughts. Another thing I'm happy with, I want to see more. I want to see it taken to another level. I'm happy with Kamala getting out that Obama line. There's more that unites us than divides us. I'm happy with that. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in this country. And when I say take it to the next level, she has to be the leader where she just can't say it. She has to show it. And she has to show it, in my opinion, by once again going and reaching out and respecting the people that she disagrees with. She has to do it. She has to lead by that example. And the other thing she has to do is she has to accept some responsibility, because you're never going to get people to have a legitimate setting aside of differences with you if you won't take some blame for some things, for your part in what's dividing the country. And so I feel like Kamala and a lot of the Democrats have this, there's more that unites us than divides us, and you people over there are the ones that are dividing us, and not accepting any responsibility of that for themselves. And so that's what I mean by taking it to the next level. You got to look in the mirror a little bit, and you got to see some things that you might be bringing to the table that are causing some of the division. And I'm not going to get into all that. I've talked about it in past episodes if you want to go listen, but I'm not going to get into it and make the show longer. But I will get into one thing. I'm trying to keep this a positive, rewarding show for people on the left. But there's one thing that I have to get into, because it's the one thing that truly angers me. It angers me about Kamala Harris. And that's Afghanistan. That's Afghanistan. Bear with me, because it is 9/11. Today is 9/11, and we've had two 9/11s, which people tend to forget. We had, of course, the 9/11 on 2001, and then we had a 9/11 in 2012 in Benghazi. So listen to this, if you would. Listen to this.
I was the one who asked Chris to go to Libya as our envoy. I was the one who recommended him to be our ambassador to the president. After the attacks, I stood next to President Obama as Marines carried his casket and those of the other 3 Americans off the plane at Andrews Air Force Base. I took responsibility. And as part of that, before I left office, I launched reforms to better protect our people in the field and help reduce the chance of another tragedy happening in the future.
So that's Hillary Clinton speaking in front of Congress about the attack in Benghazi. Kamala Harris needs to take a page from that playbook. She accepted the responsibility. Hillary Clinton did several interviews where she reiterated that she accepted responsibility, that security of the consulate fell to the State Department. Barack Obama also accepted responsibility when he was asked when he was asked, Hillary Clinton says she accepts responsibility. Is that true? And he said, no, the buck stops with me. I'm her boss. The buck stops with me. They both accepted responsibility. And like I said, sorry, this show goes back and forth. Sometimes the left will be happy. Sometimes the right will be happy about what I say. And the right can say whatever they want to say about Benghazi and what went on and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you can find plenty of clips of those two accepting responsibility. And so it troubles me. It troubles me when Kamala Harris will not admit that what happened in Afghanistan, losing 13 of our soldiers, falls on the Biden-Harris administration. They're in charge. You can't deflect that back to Donald Trump because he made some kind of a bad deal. You think he made some kind of a bad deal. It angers me to hear that because just a little bit of logic and common sense tells you that's a BS excuse. It's a BS excuse. You can't sit and tell me that Joe Biden, the president of the United States, was bound, handcuffed to that deal. When Joe Biden himself says, well, we had an alternative. Either we stay and commit more troops and continue the fighting or we leave. Oh, so there was an option. So you weren't bound by that deal. If you could stay and commit 50,000 more troops, then you could also say, we're changing the date. If you can change that part of the deal, you can say, listen, we're changing the date. We're changing where we're going to leave from. We're not leaving from that airport. It's in a city, in the middle of a city. It's too dangerous. We want more time to get people out. You could change that deal in any way you wanted to, just like Joe Biden changed a bunch of stuff that Trump had done. Just like they talk to us constantly about Trump pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Trump pulled us out of the Iran deal. Trump will pull us out of NATO if you give him the opportunity. All these things that a president can do, but Joe Biden couldn't change that deal, is what you want me to believe. It was a horrible deal, nothing you could do about it. And that's why those people died. It angers me when they talk like that. It angers me when people have such a short memory about what happened on that day. It angers me when people have such a short memory about what the response from Biden was. We didn't know Kabul would fall so fast. What? You didn't know Kabul would fall so fast? How poor was your intelligence? And then he reversed himself and said, oh, no, we did know. No, we did know. We weren't taken by surprise. And people said, what? You did know? How come you didn't have more security? Oh, we didn't. Yeah, it bothers me. Just accept the blame. Accept the responsibility for something, for anything. It's disrespectful to the men and women in the military. It's disrespectful to the men and women who lost their lives on that day when you accept zero responsibility or blame and you deflect it to a president who was not in office at the time. There, I said my piece on that. I said I was going to keep this a nice show for the left, reward them for the great job she did. I'm sorry, but I had to get that off my chest. Let me cheer you back up. What can I say? Oh, listen, I don't want to live in a country where we're letting illegal immigrants come into Ohio and steal people's babies and eat them in the 9th month. Steal people's dogs and eat them. I don't like that. We need to put an end to that. Who in their right mind would get on TV and repeat something they read on the internet? Who would do that? And the best part about it is when he said that, she had just said right before that, I encourage you to go to one of his rallies and hear the crazy stuff he says. And then he said one of the craziest things you've ever heard him say. Right after she said that, he said one of the craziest things you've ever heard him say. They're stealing people's dogs and cats and eating them. Where is this going on? Is it Springfield? Is it Springfield, Springboro, Ohio? They don't have fast food in Springfield, Ohio? I mean, McDonald's has got the $5 value menu now. You got to be able to come up with $5. You don't have to eat a cat. You can get a slice of pizza for $1.50. I'm not going to say anymore. I could go on. Like I said, there's some criticisms I have of Kamala Harris, but in honor of just saying it's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming since people got to feel really good about someone's performance against Donald Trump. So I'm just going to I'm going to let you bask in that before I start with the criticism. I would warn you not to get carried away. I swear, this morning, Joe, I hear him, it's not the end, but it's the beginning of the end. Do you know how many times he said that? Do you have any idea how many times Morning Joe has said, it's not the end, but this is the beginning of the end? After something bad happened for Donald Trump, he had to have said that a dozen times. A dozen times. So I would just caution people, look, bask in the glory of this big win, but don't get carried away. Don't get carried away because you have to, at this point, understand the pattern. When Donald Trump gets knocked down, he seems to get stronger. When he has a bad night, a bad experience, something bad happens, he seems to raise more money. So I would just caution people not to get too cocky over it, but enjoy it. You deserve it. It was a long time coming, and it was well earned. Kamala earned that big night. I mean, she was prepared. She came in prepared. She stuck to her strategy. She didn't get distracted by anything, any nonsense. She did extremely well. And oh, heavens to Betsy, she picked up the big Taylor Swift endorsement. Oh, far be it from me to not mention that like all the media felt they had to. Oh, she picked up the big Taylor Swift endorsement. Big surprise there. Now here I thought Taylor Swift was going to endorse Cornel West or somebody. That's it. I'm going to get aggravated and start saying negative things. So you know what I'm going to do? Let me see real quick. If the audio isn't good on this, I'm not going to do it. Let me see if I can call my dad real quick. See if he picks up and get his thoughts. Told you I've been trying to get him to sit with me for another interview. Let me see if I can call him. Okay, here he is. I got him. He actually picked up. I was a little nervous. He wouldn't want to talk to me, but he actually picked up. So, Dad, got you on the podcast. Tell me what your thoughts are about the debate last night.
Well, just like they had planned to do, they sucked Donald Trump in. Doesn't take much to push his buttons. So he fell apart. I don't think he'll ever say she's dumb and can't talk again. I don't think you ever hear that out of his mouth again.
He's funny because he can be so rude and disrespectful to people, but you can earn his respect. So do you think that Kamala Harris earned his respect?
Nah, not because the stakes are too high. And the only thing he might respect her, but he can't show it. Stakes are too high. He's trying to stay out of jail. He has to appeal to his base. So I'm sure he feels differently about her as far as her being dumb and can't talk. I know he feels differently about that, but he's going to have to hide his feelings if he has any respect for her.
Do you think he came into that debate underestimating her?
Absolutely. He underestimates everybody. He puts his foot, on somebody's throat and think they're going to stay there. So, yeah, he underestimated her, and then he was hoping that she would collapse. He had flashbacks of Biden. So he was hoping Biden's partner wasn't much better than him, but that was stupid because he's a different generation.
Are you okay with living in a country where people are out there eating dogs and cats? Are you okay with that?
Hey, when you're hungry, you're hungry. But hopefully you go into a supermarket and shoplift before you do that.
Well, that's what I just got done saying. I said they don't have any fast food in Ohio. I mean, you can get a slice of pizza for $1.50, I think.
Yeah, but he has to paint the most drastic picture possible. He'll have his cannibalism in a minute, where people will be eating people. Democrats will be eating Democrats, chasing Republicans down the street, trying to cook them. He's only going to get worse.
So
he's only going to get worse.
Do you think that this moved the needle a little bit, a lot, not at all? Do you think this is now Kamala's election to lose, or do you think it's not really going to make a big difference?
I think it moved the needle some. Couldn't help it move the needle some. Hopefully it moved it enough But it is her to lose. She has this momentum. She can't let this momentum get away.
Mm-hmm.
She has to keep people pumped and keep people out there because, people have short memories.
Yeah.
A week or two from now, they won't remember this debate. They might remember bits and pieces, but she has to keep the momentum going and keep people interested in the election.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be hard to do because people, they go off on a good movie. Good movie is out. I'm going to the movie.
Instead of going to vote.
Instead of going to vote, it's a matinee. I got to catch the matinee because it's cheaper. People are crazy.
Do you think that the moderators were biased against Trump? Do you think they were unfair?
No, they were unfair to Kamala.
What?
They wouldn't mute his mic. He just kept rambling and rambling. They were unfair to Kamala because they never shut him up.
He gets 2 minutes.
He got way more than 2 minutes.
I don't think so.
They tried to. There's several times they tried to say, okay, Mr. President, and they wouldn't mute him. I don't know why they had the mute button.
I don't agree.
I definitely. Who got in more? Sit there and watch it and count the words that were said between him and Kamala. He just rambled and rambled and rambled, and I said, why don't they shut him up? Why don't they turn him off? And then on several occasions, she didn't get a rebuttal, and even when she tried to at one point have a rebuttal, they shut her down within a matter of seconds.
I disagree with that. I think, first of all, you can't count the words and go by that because Donald Trump only uses 12 words, so you can't go by that. You got to go by the time. And I think if you were to
over and over,
I think if you were to look at the time, I think it would be surprisingly close. I think they had about the same amount of time, but no, I think they were. It's a legitimate criticism that's going to come from Republicans and from the right that at times it appeared to be a 3-on-1 because Kamala was not pressed in the same way Donald Trump was. If Kamala gave an answer that required some follow-up questioning, she didn't get it the same way he did.
Well, she answered the question where he didn't have to follow up.
Oh, no, she didn't. I'm trying to keep this a positive show. See, here typical liberal. I'm trying to keep this a positive show for the left.
Given 2 minutes to answer, how much answer do you want? Maybe some questions take more than 2 minutes.
She was asked about some of her former positions that she had now changed. And there were a couple of times when she didn't bother to answer the question at all when it came to things like that. She was asked about what she would do differently in regards to Ukraine and Putin, and she didn't answer that question. She was asked whether or not she ever met Putin. She never answered that question. Donald Trump hit her with, would you allow for abortions in the 6th, 7th, 8th month? She never answered that question. So she was let off the hook a few times.
Well, I mean, those questions are beneath. Who's going to abort a baby in 8 and 9 months?
There's an answer to that. She could have said, Donald, those are very, very rare occasions, and usually it has to do with viability or the life of the mother. She could have answered the question, but she didn't bother to. She just, what kind of question is that? And then they moved on. The moderators just moved on. They didn't say, well, go ahead and answer the question, Madam Secretary or Madam Vice President.
No, they did not, because they didn't give her the same opportunity they gave Trump. They let Trump just go and go. They let him go for 5 minutes about eating dogs and cats.
Well, I mean, it's a serious topic.
If any time he should have been muted was then. He just wasting time. He said, okay, shut him up and went on back to Kamala. But at the same time, Kamala is still Joe Biden's vice president. Her hands are somewhat tied. She can't just say, no, I'm going against everything Joe Biden stands for, even though I'm his vice president. Once she's president, she will move away from Joe Biden. But she can't just bail on him and say, nah, I don't agree with much of what he's doing.
She doesn't have to say that, but she's trying to make herself out to be the new generation change candidate. So she has no problem when it suits her to separate herself from Joe Biden. And I'm new. I'm going to change everything. It's going to be a better, new generation.
He can't say I'm going to change everything like Joe Biden's been doing everything wrong for the last 3.5 years. That's just not right. That's just wrong to say. Well, he pretty much been doing everything wrong for the last 3, so I'm going to change it. Pretty much all his policies. She's not campaigning against a Democrat. That's all over with.
She's campaigning as if she hasn't been in office for the last 3.5 years. That's how she's campaigning.
Well, she has been in office for 3.5.
Right, but she's campaigning like she hasn't been. Like she doesn't want any connection to anything that's happened in the last 3.5 years as bad. She doesn't want to answer for anything in the last 3.5 years that's happened that they can't take credit for.
Well, I don't think if in some of people's opinion that if something you did bad, you don't play on that. You don't go, well, I did this bad, I did that bad, but I also did this good and did this good. You just don't run out there with everything that didn't work out.
Well, you can't. You also can't act like you didn't have any hand in causing it, or act like you're not in a position to fix it now or fix it in the last year or the last 2 years. You can't sit there and talk about inflation as if you had no hand in causing it or you could have a hand in making it better. Don't tell me you got a plan to make all this stuff better and you're not doing it. When did you come up with these plans? How come you didn't mention them to Joe? I think Joe would have loved these plans. What took so long?
Maybe she did mention them to Joe, and Joe didn't go that way. I'm sure she wasn't afraid to express her opinion to Joe Biden and didn't have to worry about getting fired. Like the people who were under Trump, they were afraid to go against pretty much everything, whether it was right or wrong, because they knew they would lose their job. He stood there last night and said all the people he fired. I don't think Kamala was up against that. I think she may have put her opinion out there, but Joe Biden's president. If he went the way he wanted to go, he made the final decision. She didn't. I'm sure there's things she would have done differently or didn't agree with him 100%. But there again, her hands are tied.
All right. All right. I'm keeping this show short, so I'm not going to continue because obviously you're not going to accept reality. Or have you ever, or are you now a member of the Communist Socialist Party?
I am the most realistic person walking because, they could have picked anybody to run against Trump as long as it was somebody who could beat him. I don't care if it was Kamala or whoever else is a Democrat.
You're dodging the communism question?
Somebody qualified to beat Trump.
You're dodging the communism question. Are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Socialist Party?
I haven't talked to Putin. I haven't talked to Putin or my man from Hungary. No. I mean, I've never been investigated by the FBI.
Oh, here we go.
So
here we go. You get indicted 90-something times. All of a sudden, you're a bad guy. That's how it is with you liberals.
Well, you can keep taking it up the butt, but I ain't let. You can let
reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. I'm not going to allow that.
Okay. Well, you can keep letting Trump take advantage of you. I'll clean it up. You can let Trump keep wiping his feet all over you and all over the Constitution, all over the country, and stealing millions. And he says millions and millions and billions and billions. If he had got all those billions of dollars from China, we wouldn't have no deficit. I got billions and billions and billions of dollars from China. Well, where is it at? In his Swiss bank account?
I don't understand why no one can seem to clarify what a tariff is and where a tariff goes. I have no idea. It's the same way sometimes I say about Democrats. I don't know why Democrats can't figure out when you tax corporations, you end up paying the tax, not the corporation. They just pass it along. In the same way, people can't seem to understand that. Donald Trump can't seem to understand that's not how tariffs work. We end up paying the tariff. That's how it works.
why would then Donald Trump don't understand how any tax works. I mean, just regular federal tax on income. He don't understand it because he ain't never paid it or tried to get out of paying it. So he definitely ain't not going to understand how tariffs work. He's not going to even bother to try to understand it.
All right.
And if he never had to, look, I feel sorry for Trump, man. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was always able to buy his way out of things.
He said his dad only gave him a little bit of money.
And they just had a thing on all his failed businesses over the years. They started with the USFL. I bankrupted the USFL. I bankrupted 3 casinos. He had a steak company that lasted about 2 weeks. The steak tastes like shoe leather. I mean, sheesh. But back to
he's had some ups and downs. That's fair. He's had some ups and downs.
According to him, he ain't never had a down. He's never been wrong. But I don't like beating up on the man. I mean, I could be buddies with him as long as he's not president.
Yeah, I don't think it. I don't think. I don't think it was fair. I don't think it was fair what she did. She knows he's she knows he's not all there. She didn't have to. She didn't have to do that to him.
Hey, that's on him. He got thin skin. He's walking around all tough. His son says, "My dad's the toughest person I ever saw." So he's supposed to be the toughest. He can shut down wars. I mean, he's the one putting his foot in his mouth all the time. It's his fault. He always talking about what he can do, like he's going to come up with a better medical plan for the country. Do away with Obamacare.
He's got concepts.
And he got concepts on everything. Call him Mr. Concept. He's pitiful. Yeah, even Kamala was looking at him with pity. Look on her faces, this poor soul. I mean, he just needs to move on from politics. He should go back to the reality show, because that's the world he lives in. Stuff that's not real. And let this country get over him. Put Kamala in there. If you don't like her, get her out of there in 4 years. But at least the country would start to go in the right direction and get rid of all this division and all this hate. He has us so divided and so much hate and so much fear. World War III. Russia has nuclear bombs. Well, so do we. And he's just trying to, and his followers, they follow him with all that dumb stuff. All that stuff.
All right. I'm going to put you down as a maybe on the communism. I'm going to put you down on my list. I'm making a list. So I'll put you down as a maybe on the communism. You weren't clear on that, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your thoughts. I'm sure we'll talk about it more.
Look, I won't tell anybody my son voted for Trump. Go ahead and I know which way you're heading. So
I want to make it very clear to everyone out there listening. I have never once said that I have voted for Donald Trump, or I would vote for Donald Trump, or I'm a Trump supporter. What I have said is that I am not happy with the choices that we have in this election.
So what are you going to do? You going to be a write-in? You going to write Ronald Reagan's name in there?
There are people who I would consider writing in. If it came to that, I would write in Herschel Walker's name. I would consider that.
Yeah, okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm a little lost for words.
No, I like to keep an air of mystery. I know what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to vote for, but I like to keep an air of mystery for the sake of the podcast.
It ain't no mystery. You know what you're going to do when you go in that booth. Straight Republican, boy. And swear I'm hoping there's a lot of Republicans doing the same thing. They're going to sneak in there and vote Democrat.
Oh, there are going to be plenty of see, now we're getting into there are going to be plenty of Republicans that go in there and vote for Kamala, for your girl. Plenty of rich people, plenty of corporate CEOs, plenty of Wall Street folks who are going to go in there and vote for her because of all the money she wants to dump into this economy and continue to dump in this economy. You know, that's the big secret that Democrats don't want to reveal. There are plenty of wealthy people who vote for them because they keep dumping money into the economy and keep making them richer and richer and
What
richer.
What do you call dumping money into the economy?
The $6,000 tax credit if you have a child in the first year, as if I guess it gets cheaper to have a baby in the second year. The $25,000 to buy a house. Somebody needs to explain to her that's not the problem. We don't have a housing shortage. What we have is an inability for people to sell their home because they can't buy a home because interest rates are too high. If people aren't selling their homes, then people living in apartments can't move out and get their first starter home, and people who have some starter homes can't move to the next home, and so on and so on and so on. So when the interest rates come down, the market will sort all of that out. The government doesn't need to dump money in to solve every problem.
Now, that's communist talking there.
What are you talking about? That's the free market talking.
That's communism talking. You on your own no matter what.
No, that's the opposite of communism.
You get no help. You get no help from your country. You just struggle and don't expect any kind of a loan or
we have plenty of programs. We spend trillions. It was very interesting that she said, Wharton economists have looked at Donald Trump's plan. It'll add trillions to the deficit. No, she said it'll explode the deficit. What's the deficit now? What does she call exploding the deficit? The deficit is exploded. We're $2 trillion deficit just this year alone. $2 trillion.
I've been hearing that ever since I knew what a president was. Or it's always a deficit problem. Always going to be a deficit problem, unless they just start printing money.
No. When Barack Obama was in office, people lost their minds when the deficit was $500 billion. $500 billion. People go, oh my goodness. When the debt to GDP ratio was 100%, people lost their minds. We're pushing 130% debt to GDP. We're pushing a $2 trillion deficit. It's not the same as it was under Obama, Bush, anybody else. This spending under this administration is out of control. And
was it out of control? Was it out of control with your buddy?
Yeah, because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic. I've talked about this. If you want to blame the tax cuts, get rid of the tax cuts. Guess what? They ain't going to get rid of those tax cuts. That question had come up, and it should. Kamala Harris, if she becomes president, she is not getting rid of those Donald Trump tax cuts. Nope. Not going to do it. And so you want to blame him for spending. All you can point at is the pandemic and the tax cuts. That's it. With them, they have to explain why we've had a booming economy for the last 3 years, according to them, a booming economy. That means people paying taxes, and we're still running $2 trillion deficits. That should not be. They have to explain that. But with the friendly media, with the ABC folks, nope. Kamala doesn't have to answer that. See what you did? I was trying to be nice to Kamala and the left, and you ruined it. No, man. You so buddy with Trump. You ain't gonna be nice to Kamala. I repeat, reclaiming my time. I do not know Donald Trump. I repeat.
I just heard this morning that the economy was heading in the right direction, and interest rate would be coming down. Maybe not as much as they thought, but we're trending in the right direction. But nobody wants to talk about trending in the right direction. They just want it to happen today.
Well, of course, the prices are they're just a killer. They're a killer. If there's one thing that's keeping Donald Trump on on life support, it's the inflation. If the inflation wasn't so high, I don't think this election would even be a question. He may not even be running if the inflation wasn't so high. If prices were lower, gas was lower, was a little cheaper, yeah, it wouldn't. We wouldn't be having a discussion.
But can you still contribute inflation that's still trying to come back from COVID?
What's that?
Some of the inflation is still trying to come back from the COVID.
Well, again, we're getting into a whole thing here. When the government continues to spend the way they're spending, the Fed is trying to increase interest rates to suck money out of the economy, And this administration is determined to continue to put money into the economy. For example, gas prices go up. Joe Biden says, I'm going to release 1 million barrels from the strategic oil reserve. Well, no, Joe. No, don't do that. If you don't do that, people will be forced to change their behavior. Gas prices too high? Oh, I'm going to take the train. I'm going to carpool. I'm going to drive less. And then the gas prices come down. But if you, in a way, put money into the economy by releasing barrels of oil, the gas prices don't come down. So the Fed is fighting against its own government, its own administration. They got two different objectives. The White House has the objective of winning the public opinion polls and keeping people happy, while the Fed has the objective of trying to bring down these prices, bring down the inflation. And so something's got to give there. They got to figure it out. There's only so much you can do. Sometimes people got to get a little upset with you. Sometimes you got to hit people with the cold, hard truth and say, look, we very well might have to go into a 3-month recession here.
I keep it a little simpler than that. I think you said gas prices. People are they're going to cry the blues all the way to the gas pumps, but they'll still keep pumping gas. They're not going to take a train or a bus. You're dealing with the USA, a whole nation full of spoiled people.
Oh, you watch your mouth. Don't you talk about my country like that.
A whole bunch of spoiled folks who want to ride around in air condition. I don't care if gas went to $5 a gallon. They're not going to get on a train or a bus when they can ride in their luxury air-conditioned car.
If they have to, they will. And that's the point. That's the point.
You talk about Americans.
I'm talking about Americans. I'm talking about some of these Americans out here who, they're not making a ton of money, but as long as they got it to spend, they're going to spend. They're going to spend every dime they got and then some. That's what I'm talking about. And so as long as they can get away with it, they'll do it.
They're going to spend every dime, cry that they don't have any money, and blame it on the government.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a no-win situation.
Well, in a way, because people people have to accept some of the personal responsibility. You can't look to the government every time. You can't if you need the $6,000 Kamala Harris wants to give you to have a baby, don't have the baby. If you need that money for the first year of that child's life, you should not be having a baby. If you need the $25,000 to buy a new home, you probably should not be buying a home. You can't afford it yet. You have to wait. There's a reason why there's a 20% down payment to buy a home. When we get into a situation where we start giving people money, that's when we get into a situation where we build up these bubbles because people buy homes they can't afford, and then the bubble burst, and we saw what happened.
You said that in one of your podcasts, what I agree with is not that they can't buy the home in some cases. It's trying to keep the home because they can't make the monthly mortgage payment.
Right. So people, they can't live the lifestyle that they want to live. People make $40,000, they spend $40. Then they make $60, well, they spend $60. Then they make $80, they spend $80. And they make it $80 and going, how am I still struggling? Because you're spending $80. When you had $40, you spent $40. When you made $60, you should have kept spending $40, and you wouldn't be struggling. But that's not the nature of people, and I get that too because, hey, life is short. You only got one life. Go have fun. So I see it from the perspective of, I want to buy nice things, and I want to take a vacation, and I want to eat out occasionally. Nobody wants to live, like they're living like a in the woods, like a pauper. But at the same time, people have to take responsibility for their spending. If they can't afford it, they shouldn't be buying it, and they do. And then they cry, like you say, they cry the blues to the government. The government's not doing enough to help me out here. The rich are getting richer, these fat cats, and I'm not getting anything.
Well, like I say, no-win situation, I guess.
If I was advising, it'd be a whole different country.
It'd probably be a whole lot of hungry kids out there.
Well, everybody can't eat. Hang on, let me edit that out. I can't.
Leave it in. Don't be hiding the way you feel. Leave it in there. Don't be trying to cover up like your boy.
Once again, let me reiterate, I do not know Donald Trump. I have never gone on record to say that I support Donald Trump in any way. I'm not saying I have a MAGA hat on right now.
No, that's why I'm not over there. My man's sitting right next to you. you giving him all my information, so I'll be one of those people he's going to lock up.
As I said, I've made my list. I have made my list, and depending on which way the election goes, will determine whether or not I have to hand this list over.
There's nothing wrong with saving yourself. Shame.
We can agree on that. All right. Thanks for the conversation.
Well, you caught me off guard. I was right in the middle of my lasagna, so you really caught me off guard. Hope you catch me, better next time when I can really.
You could admit you were probably watching your stories.
No, is it time for the story? Oh man! But no, I was right. I just come from therapy, and I wanted to eat something because I have a doctor's appointment.
All right.
And you sort of caught me off guard. That's why I really can't dig into you like I want to really get you straight.
All right.
But next time we'll, I'll be ready for you.
All right, we'll sit down face to face. You'll be prepared. You'll be ready, and you'll make up whatever lies you have to make up for Kamala. All right, we'll talk again.
The guy said this morning, Trump lies for a living. That cracked me up.
That's just, once again, you tell a couple lies and you get labeled a liar.
Another good one was you don't wrestle in the mud with pigs because you both get dirty, but the pig likes it.
You have to stop listening to whatever nonsense, and I know you're listening to that Morning Joe. I just know you're listening up. You got to stop with that nonsense.
I'll go back to Trump where people eating dogs and cats.
All right.
That makes more sense, I guess.
All right, that's it. I'm done with you.
I wonder how the people in Ohio feel about him this morning.
I'm done. They're probably locking up their dogs and cats. They're probably saying thank you for letting us know this was going on. I would imagine.
Yeah, I lost 2 dogs in the last couple of weeks. And he's gonna find somebody, Pam, to say, yeah, I saw somebody cooking a dog in the back house.
How would you cook a dog? Would you have to? Well, I don't. All right, that's it. I'm done.
All right. Okay.
All right.
So long.
Now you see that? Why would my dad do that? Why would my dad do that? I was trying to keep this a nice, short, Kamala positive show, but he ruined it. Blame him. Blame him. Don't blame me. But once again, good night for the soul sister, Kamala Harris.
Hey, soul sister, ain't that Mr. on the radio, stereo, the way you move it.
She had a good night, no denying it. I appreciate you listening. I hope if you're on the right, you take your medicine, just like I asked the left to take their medicine months ago. I also hope if you're on the left, if you're on the right, you'll follow the show, you'll rate the show, you'll share the show. Kamala's telling you, there's more that unites us than divides us. Come on now. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. I had intended on doing a show about misinformation, so that will be my next episode. I wasn't going to do this debate show, but the next show will be about misinformation. I got some good stuff for you there. Look for that. I'll see you next time.